Hi guys and welcome to the Jinn and Tonic show. We help Muslims and non-Muslims to handle Islam in the 21st century. My name is Mustafa and this is my co-host in the nick of time. If you wish to talk about Islam, the ideology, you have come to the right place. We cover current Islamic news, Islamic scripture, some crazy comments, and a weekly topic about Islam to examine, critique, and analyze. If this is not enough Islam for you, please drop by our Discord to discuss any further questions about Islam. We condemn any form of discrimination, violence, misogyny, slavery. However, we do embrace free speech and criticism if it's factual and correct. Thank you for stopping by and enjoy the Gin and Tonic show.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Ta-da-pa-pa. We are here at the Jinn and Tonic show. Myself, Mustafa, in the nick of time, and we have a guest today. Please welcome Ryan.
Hey, hi Mustafa, hi Nick. Hello everybody who's watching. How are you guys?
No, we're okay. We're okay. Just I'm also having a meal at the same time. Physically exhausted by removing the snow from this with this kind of tired of this godforsaken winter.
That's just Satan sprinkling cocaine.
Listen,
I wish.
My inner Canadian is coming out. It's like, why is there snow out here? Why is there snow out here? So, just my inner Canadian frustrations you might see from time to time. But hello, Ryan. Ryan is an ex-Muslim, but I would actually like to introduce Ryan by asking him a few questions. We'll get straight. Nick,
sure.
Something?
How about this, Ryan? Let's say a few brief words about yourself. Introduce yourself. We have some crazy comments and such that I also want to get your reaction to. So do that, and then we'll go into the remaining questions.
Yeah. So Ryan, please tell us a bit about yourself, like your background, your So just tell us briefly about yourself.
And I'm running a group, a Facebook group, which is called Muslims and Ex-Muslim Dialogues, and just like the name suggests, it's focused on dialogues between ex-Muslims and Muslims. And the good thing about it is, like, we try to have dialogues which are civil and try to make them appreciate honesty from both ends.
No, that's a very it's a very brave and very noble step that you've taken, Ryan. And I believe you also have a partner who's helping you with this.
Oh yes, it's Fatima, and Fatima said, and her name is Fatima said. So good thing about her and me is I generally tend to handle the logic and rationality side of things, and she's very well versed in Islamic knowledge, like the what do you call, like Ibn Kathir and these kind of things. He's well versed, so it's kind of like a balance.
And have you faced any backlash from creating this particular group?
Well, yes. There was at one point when the group was at its infancy, a group of Muslim people, and they didn't like the fact. In fact, what I used to do, me and Fatma, what we used to do earlier was ask Muslims to come and have a verbal discussion on dialogues regarding Islam and the validity of it. And this one guy, Nadir, he kind of invited another person from the group, and this guy gives me a death threat. This was number one. And the number two thing was, nowadays I'm using my original Facebook ID, but earlier, because of security concerns and to remain anonymous, I used to make these fake IDs. But they had a group, the Muslim side of it, and they used to mastercode me every time, and that's how all my IDs used to get banned in a matter of weeks.
Wow, no, they were actually like spying on you in a sense. Um, and yeah, I also wanted to ask, like, I think on top of that, what gave you the idea of, or you and Fatima or yourself, the idea to start a group like this? Like, what was the motivation behind this?
The main motivation was education. Education for both sides, but specifically for ex-Muslims. And by education, I mean like there are a lot of arguments posed by apologetics and these Muslims, which uh, can make a bit of sense, but from inside they're hollow. And I wanted a platform where we can discuss these things. So this is number one. And number two part is like there was a time when I was an ex-Muslim, but I had nobody, and I felt like maybe it's just me, and we don't have a platform of some sort. But then I started getting to know people, and I said, "Hey, the other portion of the group could be like to help other ex-Muslims know that they're not alone."
Hmm. Yeah, and do you feel, how successful do you feel that this group has become, this ex-Muslims versus Muslims dialogue group? How successful do you feel it is?
At the moment, I would still say there's a lot of room uh, for improvement, yes, but mainly for members. Because at the moment we have what 2.3, 2.4K members, and I think it would be a healthy group for me if we reach like 10,000 or 15,000 at least. In terms of being successful, for the thing is which makes our group different than other groups is that we focus on keeping the discourse civil, and we have a certain set of rules, and we actually do not shy away from uh, for example, muting someone after several warnings are given, or even blocking them entirely, which was lacking in some of the other groups I used to be a part of or a member
Mhm.
of. So yeah.
And do you feel, what do you feel that this group could potentially not only could endanger somebody? Do you ever have that that feeling that this could endanger somebody, this group?
Well, yes, 100%. Because the thing is, if some member is an ex-Muslim
Yeah.
and they are young, they do not know much about how dangerous it can be for them. They might be using their real ID, and then they can be tracked. Uh, and it's pretty easy to like track down the IP address these days and pinpoint the location. Or someone can actually, a Muslim who has like some grudge sort of a thing, they can pretend to be ex-Muslims and get information out. So the thing is, like, we always try to make sure by some of our announcements that guys either use a VPN, use your fake
Mhm.
ID, do not trust anybody, keep on reminding people.
Well, that's a very good. Now, and do you feel, and do you have tend to take extra steps to like ensure people's safety?
Oh yes, one of the major step we like. One of the thing we look for is like extremists who
Hmm.
would show signs of like they're extremists, and they might just do some physical harm to another person. These kind of people are strictly not allowed in our group, and we have blocked, I think, more than 15 such people.
Wow.
The other thing is, like I said, announcements, and then letting people know if they're getting a bit more, popular, and they have their own ID, their face, and their personal information, and their ID, Facebook ID is public, we try to kind of reach out and guide them that, hey, you can be a bit more discreet about things, because it's not all it's not just limited to a keyboard fight or a battle. It can actually get physical as well.
Wow, yeah. And I forgot to ask this question to you. When did you officially start this group? Like, what time frame?
Yeah, so this group was actually started by Fatma, and here's a very funny, a very interesting story of how I met Fatma. So I was a moderator in an other group, which was owned by someone else, and because it was majority of Muslims, I felt like they were kind of pressing me, and a lot of things they would favor Muslims over ex-Muslims, and similar thing happened when Fatma joined that group where I was the moderator, and and they would get me to mute Fatma for something. If some Muslim does the same thing, they wouldn't even give them a warning. And so at one point, I was like, "F that, man. Fatma, let's start another group and show them how it's actually done with fairness and civility." And Fatma was like, "Hey, I already have a group." And I think at that time she had 300 members. And I joined, and she made me an admin. And then from there, we started growing it. I think it's been 14 months, I guess.
Wow, so it's fairly recent. And
Yes.
I as I recall, was this group called the atheists of an atheist and ex-Muslim, an atheist and Muslims of Pakistan? Was it this one?
Yes. Yes. It was
Okay.
called
I
Atheists
remember
of
that one.
Pakistan versus Muslims of Pakistan. Yes, I think you were
Yes,
there as well.
yes, I was there, and there was this tendency of I do recall there you messaging me and then you adding me to a group and saying that, hey, we're gonna do this group. This is a proper. So I do recall Ryan actually sending a lot of us a message that, hey, join this group. This is a much better platform that we have. So but so, and to this day, I've thank you, Ryan, for
Oh, of course. Thank you for being a part of dialogues. And here's a
yeah.
funny thing: the group we are talking about, Muslims of Pakistan and ex-Muslim of Pakistan, the earlier group, the main admins, they didn't care much, and this is the reason why that group doesn't exist anymore. Like, there's another version of it. It's got like 200 members. It got banned by Facebook. But here in our group, me and Fatma, we are always proactive, and this is how it should be if you actually want to keep your group alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and now the way you guys organized it, and have taken steps to, what do you call it? Ensure, civility in a group. This must be very challenging. Now, even though I'm gonna before we go off, I wanted to ask questions about you specifically. So before
we get into the juicy stuff, I think we used to do the crazy comments and such.
Yes. So do you want to do the crazy comments now before we kind of dive into the deeper philosophical stuff? Okay.
Yeah.
So
So basically, what I have planned for the crazy comments is that there's this spoken word rap, and there's many amazing comments underneath, but without the context of this spoken word rap, it's going to be hard to understand. So I'm going to play that rap, we'll react to it, and then we'll go to the comments. All right. It's done by a channel named Talk Islam.
Oh no.
What?
It's the meaning of life. Watch and learn, Moose.
What are we doing here? And where are we gonna go? It's like we just woke up one morning, and then it's welcome to the show. Don't ask any questions, just go with the flow. Make as much money as you can and try your best not to get broke. Copy everything you see on the TV, from the hairstyles to the clothes, and
Wait, hang on. Nick, pause. That tone, that tune, every Islamic video.
I was about to say that. Like
Everyone
someone's
uses that.
mother is dying or something, man. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Well, I did have
make it so dramatic.
There was an atheist that was following ex-Christian. He did say that this is the kind of theme I would go high on. Like this is kind of my jam, where I would smoke a joint and just listen to the beat. So I don't know
what
why
beat isn't a beat like wrong or halal.
I don't know. It's just some guys are singing like shamans, and it's just what's going on.
All right, let me finish the video so we can kill you with cringe.
Yeah.
I want to kill Moose with cringe today, so just the video.
You hate me. I know.
You're doing a good
often,
job.
Just do exactly as you're told. And if you ever get confused, then just turn towards the alcohol.
Oh, come on. Of course they're going to target the alcohol. First they're going to go with capitalism, and then they're going to go to the alcohol.
You still hear your thoughts, then just turn up the radio as you...
And music.
Is this Psy from Gangnam Style?
Yes, that's him. That is him.
Wow.
It's like,
Learn
okay,
to live.
why, how, I don't drink before I turn on the radio or the music, and nobody uses the radio anymore unless they're driving. So,
well, he was out of rhymes, so he
yeah,
needed to use a word which rhymes with something else.
Yeah, but like it doesn't. But due to buy, it actually has a point. It doesn't even rhyme. Doesn't even rhyme alcohol. So
yeah.
So it's very funny. All right, keep going.
The lifestyle of drugs, sex, and rock and roll.
I like how they associate it with rock and roll. Like every rock and roll artist does drugs and drink.
And not only that, is having plenty of sex. When in reality, it's like
no, it isn't.
We're kind of stuck inside. We're just like 90% of the time we're trying to get some sleep.
Yeah, the only reason why I can't get sleep is you're too busy with drugs, alcohol, and sex. And rock and roll.
But in all honesty, I just need to know, is there more to the cycle than growing and getting old? Living and dying just to leave behind a happy home and a whole lot of property that somebody else is...
Yeah, property, just like your wife.
Oh,
yes.
Man. And slaves.
Or slaves.
Is going to own. I just really need to know before the casket's closed, cause I'm not willing to gamble with my soul, nor am I ready to take any chances. These are just simple life questions, and I'm just searching for some answers. Like, what are we doing here? And what is our purpose? How did we get here?
I really have a answer to that. So I know the sex ed is something that he doesn't like, but let me give you this. There is something called a vagina, and men have a pee-pee. When they put that into the lady, a baby comes out.
Sorry.
That is where I came from.
Yes.
Now I know a vagina isn't something he touched since he came out of his mom's womb, but
probably ever will.
Yeah, so I know he's unfamiliar with this concept, so I just had to give him the answer to this.
Yeah, it's like, how did we get here? It's like, it's kind of technically simple. Like, but I know he could be just asking in the context of like, how did humanity get here? And then we have...
Oh, we have the answer for that. He just doesn't want to hear it.
Exactly. We have the entire...
it's not good enough for him because it doesn't go well with the book he subscribed to, which he cannot prove is true.
No, I think we just have to play this music in the background as we explain evolution to him.
Keep playing, keep going.
And who made us so perfect? And what happens once we go? Or is this...
who made us? Who made us? Always the assumption of a creator. Like,
It's kind of like a loaded question, and not only that, it's like, who made us so perfect? Really? Are we perfect?
yeah,
Dude, come on. There are vestigial arteries, organs there. Besides, if jump off a building, like, which is 3 or 4 stories, I'm gonna die. We are anything but perfect, actually.
Oh yeah, and in a fist fight with our close cousin, the gorilla is gonna fuck us up. The gorilla is gonna fuck us, a few of us up. So we're not perfect. Like I would make the argument that the gorilla has a better physique than I do, and could probably bench press 5, 10 times more than I could.
This is literally the most Joe Rogan thing you said.
Yeah, and one more thing. Maybe he's talking about being perfect in terms of having a good intellect. We are the smartest animals. They are, but the problem is, if we are perfectly smart, then why is religion still there? Because this guy subscribing to Islam is actually disproving his own point that we are perfect.
Yeah, so it's like, why is he having all these questions and stuff, right? So it's...
All right, let's continue with the
video.
video.
Let's continue.
Come on, let's...
World all really worth it? Questions we don't answer because apparently...
Wait, is it playing?
Yeah, it's a bit... Is that Lawrence Krauss?
Yes.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, that's it.
And the other guy looks like Nader.
It does, right?
Yeah.
It does look like Nader. All right. I said,
we don't really have to. There's no purpose to this life and our existence is merely natural. Then in that case, please let me ask you, did you create yourself or was it somebody else who had fashioned you? Cause you're a being that's impeccable, faultless and unparalleled.
Wait.
Of...
Why is he saying, like, we just say that we're not faultless. We have so many faults. Like, both physically and mentally we have faults. Like, I would not be taking pills for my anxiety. So there are faults within me too. It's like, I want to slap this guy so hard.
Dude, there are a lot of faults in the human body itself. In our eyes, we have this thing called the blind spot. Our brain makes up for it and fill in the information of fiat information, if I may. But we are anything but. And there are other eyes without, like in the animal kingdom, without that blind spot.
Yeah, and I think eagles have practically, I think birds of prey are seen as having some of the best kind of eyesight. So far, as the falcon, where it can see like good distances and more ranges of color too. Like some eyes can see more ranges of color, except we cannot see all the ranges of color. So
we cannot. Yes.
Yeah. So. We definitely have some. So yeah, let's continue with this.
Supreme intelligence, and I'm merely being rational. For there isn't a camera on this earth that can come close to the human eye, nor a computer that can compete alongside the human mind. And if the whole world was to come together, we wouldn't be able to create a single fly. So many signs, yet we...
Why is he crying?
I know, right? Like, what's up with the... What's up with that? It's kind of like that emotional appeal, especially in videos like it's a very emotional, trying to grasp. I think Ryan has also seen a lot of this too. Like, I think in some of posts on your group, there are a lot of appeals to emotion, I'm guessing.
Yes, there are. And funnily enough, I've seen just recently some of the Muslims are accusing atheists for leaving Islam due to emotional reasons. And it's funny what this guy is doing here. He's just appealing to emotions, man.
Yeah.
Well,
and after every 3 words, after every 3 words that come out of his mouth, I always have like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, and he's like almost on borderline crying, like, the Hollywood crying, that is. I call it the Hollywood crying.
I have a comment here as well.
You can create a fly, take a dump in the woods, pretty soon flies will come. Yeah.
Well, yeah, he does have a point.
And he does. Thinking clearly has a point too. There is a kind of jellyfish that is practically immortal. Us perfect humans can't live past 100.
Yes.
So thinking clearly, you have a pretty good point there. And yeah, what's up with this astronaut? Oh, it's a robot or an astronaut?
It's I think it's Asimov. It's a robot.
Oh no. Yeah, Nick, can you play this?
Yeah, it's
Still
playing.
deny. As science tries to justify that all this could come from none, when it's a simple sum.
No.
That's a solid
Zero
straw
plus
man.
zero plus zero can.
No, science does not claim that. No. Yeah, you were saying, Ryan, you had something to say?
I'm dying, man, because of the cringe level in this video. The thing is, science does not make this claim. He's just blatantly saying whatever is coming in his head, and I'm pretty sure he must have spent like a couple of months preparing this, and in his mind he's like, aha, I got y'all atheists, take this. And it's all straw manning, and then playing around vague terms such as perfect. Well, what the hell do you mean by perfect, first of all? So refuting this video can take like hours, because every word he's saying is just BS.
In this case, let's finish the video completely, and we'll actually read the comments
after.
Yes, let's finish this, please.
Not possibly ever give you one. So from where did all this order come? For everything has its origins, a maker, a creator of its own. I mean, the only reason you're watching this video is because somebody had to press upload. So we can believe in the Big Bang, but I'd rather believe in He who caused it to explode. Allah, the creator of everything along with every single soul. The ever-living, the master, the only one who is in control. Unlike his creation, beyond our imagination. And no, he's not a man, nor does he have any partners in association. He's on his own. And no, he did not ever leave us alone. Just like every manufacturer, he left us with an instruction manual. The Quran and Islam, and I'm sorry to jump to conclusions, but it's the only one possible.
So is the Bible not possible?
Yeah, okay. The Quran doesn't have complete stories. Half of the shit you know is from previous books. And the Hadith, the books after too. Like, you would not know the Exodus story if it weren't for the Torah. This guy would not know the Exodus story. Or any story, because the Quran doesn't have the details, and the Hadiths have more details. So this, all right, continue this.
No, I gotta mention. Doesn't this look like he's trying to squeeze the perfect tits for the first
time? Oh man, yeah.
Damn it, Nick.
I always make you laugh.
You always will. Now let's continue with this
monstrosity.
Yes.
The definition of God is the one and only supreme being. It's logical. A book with zero contradictions, with miracles that are both scientific and historical.
Sure.
Contradictions, dude. Come on. There are heaps of contradictions, man.
And not only that, there's also the what do you call it? There are scientific errors, especially the one glaring one I find is 41:9-12, where it says that the Earth was created in 4 days and the heavens was created in 2 days. So it takes the tiny planet twice as much as the rest of the universe. So that one we found was a blatant error. And then we have multiple examples, and then the hieroglyphics. He's probably quoting Maurice Bucaille, who's been debunked as well so many times. Maurice Bucaille, I don't know why they always go to Maurice Bucaille. This man wasn't even an expert.
All right, let's continue.
All right.
all revealed over 1400 years ago, like the detailed description of the human embryo.
The descriptions of the human embryo in the Quran cannot be based on scientific knowledge in the 7th century.
To the mountains as pegs holding firm the...
Oh, why are you going there? All right, keep going.
Earth below,
Keep going, yeah.
and the two seas that don't mix in a complete separate flow, to the planets in orbit, alternating night and day as they stay in flow. The expansion of the universe and the creation of everything from H2O, to the stories of the past and the preservation of Pharaoh, to identifying the lowest point in the land where...
Why did he go there? No, for preservation of Pharaoh. Like, no, your body. No, that was a horrible study.
Mustafa, he probably had he had to take a dump before he made this video.
Yeah, no.
The way he's moving it is like almost like he's holding in a dump.
It's a logical fallacy. It's called Gish Gallop. And what Gish Gallop means is like why it is a fallacy, because in Gish Gallop the person, what he does is, or she, they just give you 100 different points in succession and being very fast at it. So the other person just loses track, and that's why it's a fallacy. This is what he's just doing. And complete the video. I have a very good point, but I'll share after the video.
It's called a Gish Gallop, right? Gish Gallop.
Gish Gallop.
Oh, Gish Gallop.
Persia defeated Rome, the gushing fluid that created man in the glands between the ribs and the backbone, and not a word has changed, it's still the same. So please explain how all this was known over 1400 years ago, to a man who couldn't read or write as he would recite whatever the angels spoke. And if you still don't believe, please try to come up with something that's even close. But you can't, so we took God.
Didn't we come up with the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Torah, which were all close?
All right, let's. I want to continue.
God is a mockery and his messengers is a joke.
Muhammad could not read or write. How somebody who can't read or write gonna start a religion?
Dismissed his scriptures as legends and tales of the ancient folk, as we live life according to our whims, desires, and hopes, saying this life is the only home we will ever know.
Was that Drake from
Yeah.
God's Plan?
Yeah. Yeah, that
We will live then die, then simply turn to bones. YOLO! Correction, after the grass dies, the rain arrives and it regrows, and Allah promises to do the same thing to your very soul and bring you back from your very fingertips to your toes, as the all-seeing supreme being watches us so close, and we are surely being tested in our wealth, our health, and our self, and everything that we've been blessed with. So believe, for we will surely be resurrected and be brought back to our Lord and account for every single deed, as he hands us our books and orders us to read. From the bad to the good and everything in between. You yourself are sufficient for your...
Why is he yelling at me?
Yeah, and it's like Nim Grace has a point. Poor man, he needs to let all of his feelings out.
Yeah.
That amount of feelings.
Own accountability, so don't be mad at me. You are the one who thought he wouldn't come back to me. I gave you a whole life long.
Who's mad at who? You're yelling at me.
It's just his repressed sexual energy. You know?
Probably.
To search after me, but you were busy in all that which was temporary, so read.
Temporary?
Temporary, yeah, exactly.
Pronounce temporary properly. Like you needed to make it like temporary.
Thanks to all those who believed, and if you disbelieve, read. And don't let that day be the first day you find out what your life really means. Read.
irony. Is it over now? Is it over? Is
Yep.
it over? Oh, oh,
Finally.
oh, oh. The read at the end, I was like, the irony. I've read more
Exactly.
of the Quran than this guy would ever read in his lifetime. But yeah,
And
Ryan, you
and
had
he,
a point.
yeah, I was thinking like, why is he doing it for us people? We know these things, we know the arguments, and it's all we know. He's just bullshitting. But I can see the point here. For example, if there's someone who is kind of like experimenting, who's a non-Muslim but inclining, we have a lot of Westerners converting, and who is a Muslim, and they want to learn more. So it will actually appeal to them a lot because they wouldn't know that how full of shit he is and how blatantly he's basically lying in a lot of places here and
Yeah.
just making logical fallacies after fallacies, but a regular average Joe is not going to be able to tell. And it I can see that it can appeal uh, a very like a huge chunk of the populace.
Yeah, and I have a few comments because Ryan, you're wrong on that because apparently someone left Christianity for this.
This Paul H
For
guy.
this.
Paul H. I have it up on the screen
Well,
on stream. You can see.
Can you
wait.
see the comments?
Oh yeah, Paul. Yes.
It's
This
like
video sums up 7. That's why I left Christian. Ah, come on. And there are people.
This one is funny. Wait, I'm not Muslim, but this video was beautiful, and I think it is true what is in it, heart. It has also made me feel better about me. How
Okay.
was this inspirational to you, Clemical the creature? And then it's like, wow, man, I'm not Muslim or anything, but those verses were sublime. No one ever told me, nor I was taught in any history class, that the Quran has so many passages of fine poetry and detail. I thought at first they were elaborations, but I looked them up, and the same impact comes out in several translations. I can't imagine the original. What is up with this? I'm not Muslim comments.
Yeah. So here's the thing. There are two things. Just like I said, look, again, we cannot blame these people. First of all, it could be fake IDs. They're actually Muslims, and they're trying to reassure the audience that, hey, I'm not a Muslim, and still I'm touched by it. But on the other hand, as well, you cannot blame people who are actually touched by it because, if, for example, if someone tells you that something which is recently E is equals to MC squared is actually in the Quran and it's been proven, and for a person who has never been like who doesn't have that much of Islamic knowledge, they're gonna be like, "What? Wow! It must be divine." That's your first reaction. That's how when I was a Muslim, I used to get excited and fascinated about these things. And funnily enough, just like our Nader lookalike mentioned, read. I started reading. I actually started reading Quran with translation because I was so fascinated that wow, it has all the universe inside of it. And when I did, I was disappointed.
Wow. Like that must have hit you in the face, didn't it?
Yeah, but I still was a Muslim. I started like lying to myself at one point, actually.
Oh wow, yeah. And so was this the trigger point, like reading the Quran itself, or do you feel there was
No,
another thing that made you change your perspective?
no. My trigger point was the logical errors, and it was just illogical and irrational. It is an irrational belief. For example, if you and this is my main question, which plays a very important role in me becoming an atheist. And here's the thing: like we all know that Allah decrees everything from start to finish. Allah knows everything before He even has created me. He knows that I'm gonna be an atheist in future. And who decreed that? Allah Himself, because He's first of all He's omniscient. Uh, that means He knows everything. And second thing is He's omnipotent, which means that it's by his decree I'm like that, and then he puts me into hell
Yeah.
just because not it wasn't my fault to begin with. It was Allah who did everything, who made me the way I am, just to throw me in hell. Like, what is it? Either Islam, it doesn't make any logical sense. It only makes logical sense if Allah is sadist. And that's just one part of it. There are a lot more other things which are logically inconsistent.
And how long have you been, like, would you say, have you like sort of deconverted or started doubting? Do you have an idea, or was it a slower process, or was it just a lot
It
faster?
was it was kind of like a slower process, but I would say like when I was, I think, 14 or 15 or maybe 16.
Yeah.
I
So
was
you're
I was
very
done with
young.
I was done with Islam, but I would never label myself as an atheist or anything. I was never very religious to begin with. Even when I was a Muslim, there was a phase of like a couple of months maybe when I used to like get this. I used to pray, and I used to actually get this feeling of divinity, and I used to think, wow, this euphoric feeling is divine. But later I got to know that it can be in anything. Uh, and by the age of 16, I was kind of a religious. I just said to myself, I don't even want to think about it. F it. There are other things in life. Let's see. Before dying, I'll just say astaghfirullah, pray a little bit, and I'll be fine. Yeah, because it is a thing. I was told that at the end, if you say astaghfirullah with a pure heart, you
Wow. So it has to be the pure heart. The pure heart is the catch-all.
in hell.
Um,
Yeah.
oh, and speaking of
So,
which, inshallah, inshallah. So,
inshallah.
so speaking of which, we discussed that you wanted to talk some philosophical questions as well. That I had some prepared for you.
Oh, wow.
So not too philosophical. I'm not an expert on philosophy, but
No, neither am I.
yeah. So I think I'm more of a layman than yourself. So I'll ask you this. So I wrote it down. I'm just pulling up my notes. So you have engaged in the past with, like, when you've deconverted. So you've engaged in the past against apologists using philosophical arguments for Islam, like philosophy. Does
Yes.
philosophy make Islam look better or worse, or does it even?
No, well, philosophy. Actually, if you are well versed in philosophy, it doesn't do any sort of favors for Islam, because philosophy is all about putting everything on the table, and everything is on the table to dissect. And one thing Muslims cannot do is to assume that God doesn't exist or anything like that. Some Muslims do it, but still they're always like they have this confirmation bias. Philosophy itself doesn't do much good. And here's another thing I've noticed, at least in dialogues, that a lot of theists use philosophy to prove God or Islam, and a lot of atheists, they run away from philosophy. Uh, because let's be honest, it is a bit mind-boggling. Philosophy can be like a real brain exercise, and people just don't have time. They have their lives. They have other practical things which actually do matter to them, and they don't have time to like sit and understand and educate themselves on philosophy, and that's why they run away. However, I would suggest that just spend a little bit of time, if you're into dialogues, to
Yeah.
atheists. Learn just the basics of logic and epistemology, and other forms as well. And only just with the basics, you can see right through their flawed arguments.
Yeah, no, and it's a very, like, even a basic understanding can even show, like, you are correct. I actually agree, and I myself have found myself, like, I don't want to engage in the philosophy aspect of this, because at times, because I'm the kind of guy who asks for um, hard evidence, right? I'm the kind of guy who wants observable, measurable evidence, because I'm not a half fan of philosophy. I'm like, okay, give me proper evidence, like, and
Mm.
when he starts the game, the step by step game, it's like, oh no, he's going to use arbitrary.
Oh
So
yes, yes.
so it's like,
I've seen you actually.
yeah, you've seen me engage, and I'm kind of like, oh no. So I'm kind of like, I kind of have this weird way of shutting them off, because it's like, I my brain doesn't work that way. My brain works in a very different manner.
Hmm.
I'm a different kind of guy. I'm also
Mhm.
legal professional too, so I kind of look at the
Oh,
laws and the, sort of
yeah.
like, I want something relevant. And philosophy dabbles into a lot of irrelevant things, at least in the eyes of a lawyer or paralegal or a legal professional.
Yes,
Um,
in the eyes of people like who are, in the eyes of basically everybody, I would say it kind of like it can be said to be useless. For example, if we go on an argument, hey, maybe you don't even exist, or I
yeah,
don't exist, existential crisis, these kind of hard hitting questions, and people would be like, dude, come on, it's useless, and which it's actually pretty agreeable. Yes, it is useless. However, if you are actually in a group setting or willing to have these dialogues, then it kind of does make sense at the same time
mhm.
to be at that level
Yeah, no, it
instead of
definitely,
like dismissing philosophy entirely.
yeah, no, it can be, it definitely, an engaging. No, I come to think about it, yeah, one can have a engaging dialogue. Now, this is my follow up question to this. And this is an observation of my own. Like, this is my personal observation. Why
Mhm.
have I've seen Christian apologists use philosophy, and Judeo-Christian apologists, but why have Muslims started looking into philosophy, or even Western philosophy, to make arguments for the Islamic God?
Yeah, I think there are two reasons for that. First of all, it's number one reason, which we just discussed. They cash on the fact that most atheists wouldn't know much about philosophy, so they can have their aha moment or gotcha moment, which would be full of flaws, but people are not well versed generally to handle these kind of questions. The second thing is, uh, dude, Islam is also plagiarized from Christianity, and it kind of applies. A lot of arguments apply there, and in Islam, which actually apply to Christian arguments by Christians, philosophical arguments by them. And the third thing, what I can think at the top of my head is, wait, there was this one thing, philosophy. Well, yes, what they do is they always keep Allah and Islam aside and try to prove God, a general uh, God.
Yes, I've noticed that actually. Like, never the
Yes.
Islamic God, but
Yeah.
a God in general that can apply, um, to a lot of,
Oh, yeah.
um,
Anything. Yeah.
and however, it doesn't necessarily appeal to someone who's a polytheist, like, as a belief system. So wouldn't that not work for them if they're polytheists?
Well, it may or may not, but the thing is, like, uh, they try to like they start from something very simple. It's easier to prove or disprove anything which is like a bit more generalized, and then they kind of like build into like, now let's talk about Islam, and now if you agree that there is a God, now let's talk why Islamic God is true. That's how they build up to it. and,
Yeah, and I
and
think Fatima and myself also asked this particular person, like, twice, which God, like, which one, and
exactly.
kind of pressed to this person, like, which one, because there are several gods over the centuries, that is, um, that have they don't, even the monotheistic gods of the or king of gods don't all share the same characteristics. So they
Yes.
have different characteristics. So yeah, I there is so I do understand how, from your point, they tried. There is the trying to generalize God. Now, what
but
in your opinion, however, this next question, what is the most common philosophical argument for the Islamic God?
Yes, so it's in my opinion, which I come across this argument, the contingency argument, and the other one is
Ah,
like the necessary
necessary
cause argument,
existence.
which is the Kalam's cosmological argument. And yeah, they just love using it, and I love debunking it.
Well, how would you debunk if you wanna
Yeah,
can you summarize
let's take this argument, Kalam's cosmological argument.
Yeah,
So Kalam, who was a Muslim, he proposed this argument, and then William Lane Craig, he actually kind of mastered it, quote unquote. And this is the basic version of the argument. So anything which begins to exist has a cause. That's premise one. Premise two is the universe began to exist. Therefore, the conclusion becomes, uh, therefore, the universe has a cause. And by cause, I mean like creator or something which
yeah,
followed
yeah,
it or something which made
which
made it
made it.
into
Yeah,
being. Yes, and so it's very simple. Like it is kind of a, for example, the first premise, everything that begins to exist. Well, first of all right, begins to exist. How would you define exist, and how would you define begins? Because one can argue that nothing we see is actually we don't have any example of something which actually began to exist. For example, a chair, it doesn't begins to exist. Everything that we experience, in my opinion, is just a rearrangement of particles and energy. And that's not beginning to exist, that's rearrangement. Now let's jump to, but okay, fine. Let's grant the first point to them. Premise one, everything which begins to exist has a cause. Second premise is the universe began to exist. All right, can you prove that? They would go on into Big Bang and all that kind of stuff. They would just say Big Bang. That's where how the universe began to exist. But little do they know, Big Bang does not tell you the beginning, how the universe began to exist. It just tells you at t is equals to the Planck time at a certain point in time, and Big Bang is about the expansion of the universe itself.
yeah,
It's not the beginning of it, which a lot of people see. This is what Islam does. A lot of apologists, they dislike science. They're anti-science. Not all, but a lot of them. And being anti-science, they don't do their homework pretty well. They just hear something about Big Bang, it's the beginning, and all right, so the universe began to exist. Uh, Anyways, so the conclusion. Let's jump to the conclusion here for a second. Therefore, the universe has a cause. Well, first of all, it's flawed, and it's not proven that a universe began to exist to begin with. But even if that's granted, all right, fine, universe has a cause. Now, what are we going to do with the cause? What is that cause? It could be anything. It could be immaterial, yes, fine. It could be material. It could be conscious. It could be non-conscious. It could be anything.
yeah, and it would also it's a very, I know you simplified this is a very I like how you broke down, from the it's this even the exist part. I like how you said,
Mm,
okay, the exist, even the definition, you kind of even nitpicked on that. It's like when you
mm.
slightly nitpick every single step, you kind of find like certain flaws, like even the necessary being itself doesn't necessarily equate to a creator or a
Yes.
god.
So that's the
And
contingency argument. Like everything is contingent. It's pretty similar to this one, and it's important to like define things, define terms, because I've seen. Okay, well, I'm not going to name them. They're pretty common. These guys in dialogue script, what they do is like they would define the certain. They would just say a word, for example, existence or contingent or necessary. They use this term without defining it, and then they're gonna sneakily change the term. It's like changing the goalposts in a way, and
Yeah.
it's called fallacy of equivocation or false equivocation fallacy. What happens is they're going to use a word which means something, but they'll use the same word later in the argument which means something else. But they both have the same word for it, but two different definitions, and they're going to commingle it.
Yeah, so guys, I'm just gonna interject here with a small thing. We're approaching the 1 hour mark, so I put in the StreamYard link into chat. So if any audience member wants to come in and have a chat with us, we're gonna open it up for them as well. And we'll still continue this discussion, but if any audience member does come on, they have first priority to ask questions from this
Yeah.
point forward.
Absolutely. I'm just gonna give me a second. So I have follow-up question to the so do you think that the Kalam argument itself is it the strongest argument for Islam?
No. Now this is a personal opinion, and personally I would say no, not at all. In fact, it's the best argument for atheists to debunk. But one of these arguments, since we're on the topic, there is this argument by Anselm, and again, he was a Christian, and his argument is I kind of like this argument. It can be a bit tricky to understand, but here it is. I'll just paraphrase it. So anything like God is something which is against which we cannot perceive anything greater. God is the greatest there ever can be or will be. And this is agreeable, yes. It's a definition of God. All right, fine. And then if we perceive of something in just imagination, that's not going to be as great as the same thing being in an imagination and in real as well, because something being actually real makes it the best or greater than something which is only in imagination. And the conclusion goes like, so since God is the greatest there can be, it can not be only in your mind, only in imagination. It has to be real to satisfy the definition that God is the greatest. And
interesting, like, to be the greatest, it's an odd, at least from my perspective, that's an odd assumption that, it's...
Well, it's not an assumption. It's more like ontology of God. I think you would agree with me that God is, I'm not saying if he exists or not. Let's just leave the existing part aside for a while.
Yeah.
Would you agree that yes, God by definition is the greatest, the greatest of the greatest? He's omni-great.
I actually
like
wouldn't necessarily. No.
No. I'm not saying like any specific God. Just the definition. Would you agree with the definition
of a God?
God.
Of a God, right? A God or just
God? A God.
Like King of God.
A God, I would say. Yeah,
like
the God.
The in the other words, would you say? I kind of think of as master of the universe. Is that what you? They don't. I kind of like.
I would rather go on and say that how theists see a God.
A theist.
Do you agree with me that a theist would define or describe or say, claim or believe that God is the greatest there ever can be or will be?
Yeah, because I don't know why my mind keeps going to a Titan, because Titans were more powerful than gods, in some ways.
All right, so is God omnipotent? Are you gonna agree with me on that one? Is God omnipotent, or does God
Again, it's like it's kind of hard for me to describe, because I'm like thinking, not necessarily. Like, like that's how my mind is thinking. It's not necessary.
No, not necessarily. Well, necessarily a God cannot even exist. Like maybe there is no God at all. That I agree with you. But again, like so this is the branch of philosophy which is called ontology. Ontology is like just describing something,
Right.
regardless of it actually existing or not.
Yeah.
Hey
yeah.
guys, we got Pio on.
Yes, Pio.
Yeah,
And ask
I'll make a quick question to Ryan, because he's talking about the God, and I'm thinking he's still talking about the Islamic God. And for me, the Islamic God does not match the criteria to being a God, because he's giving people free will, meaning that you can do stuff he doesn't not know, or it might be different to his knowledge, right? So if there'll be like a free will given from God, he cannot be God, because there can be something happening which is not controlling. To my definition, a God is someone who is controlling everything, every action, and every atom to this universe. So there'll be there are two things we can discuss. Maybe the first one will be that we have a different definition of a God, which will mean the difference is, like, in my opinion, a God controls everything, and it'll be just like enough, because it seems like the Islamic God is not controlling everything. So it's not. He's not a God.
Yes. So the argument, your argument is like it's more towards the free will versus predetermined.
No. It's not about a free will argument. It's about a definition of a God, right?
Okay.
In Islam.
But I'm not talking about like the Islamic God per se. I'm talking about a generalized God.
Okay.
A very basic generalized.
If you are generalizing God, right, and so we still have to to talk about the definition of a God. It doesn't mean he exists or something, but what is your definition? And
my definition is that God is something which against which no greater can be conceived. That's my definition.
No greater can be conceived, but
yes.
This is a very broad definition, and
but it works for the argument. So this is the reason why
it's not works. So why I'm so pedantic about that? Because you are an ex-Muslim, so I'm thinking you are going with the definition what the Islam gave to you as what is God, right? And I can do it with it. It has nothing to do with if you are Muslim or not. I can do it with a Christian or whatever, right? Or
the Christian is going to say the same thing. A Christian is going to say the same thing. Like God is the greatest.
Really.
Nothing greater can be conceived against God. He's the greatest. So if you're talking about ontology, so there are two things here. One thing is like actually making a claim that God is that certain thing, or there's another thing like defining it. Okay, God may exist, may not exist, but I define God like this. It's the ontology of things, like the nature of being.
Yeah, but the nature of being. Yeah, but the nature differs from belief to belief. I will give you the definition from the Jewish belief, right? In the Jewish belief, God is the controller of everything. There is nothing happening without his knowledge or his saying it's okay, right? So there is no good or bad. God is doing everything. In Christianity and in Islam, the God is different. There is somehow a force who is fighting against this God or doing stuff he cannot control, right?
Yes.
From the Jewish perspective, it's laughable, right?
Well, yeah, it's like predetermined. There's no free will. But here's the thing. I'll like to say that let's say God has like a million definitions, a million properties. One of the property we are just dissecting right now in this argument is, let's say, a claim by a theist that God is the greatest and nothing greater than God can be even perceived.
Yeah, but if you say the greatest, you have to like define, because the thing.
Oh
when
yeah,
you say
of
the
course.
greatest doesn't mean like nothing specific, right? So when the atheists are going, so I'm an atheist, right? And I'm getting my definition of God by listening to not only to the religion like my ancestors came from, but also to other religions, right? And the conclusion of it, oh, God must be the one who is controlling this is my definition, like I told you before, right? And it's not based on my ancestry. It's based on everything, every theist I talk to, right? Yeah.
So here's the thing. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. First of all, this is exactly what all atheists should do. Like, define great. What do you mean by great? When you say God is the greatest, what do you mean by great? In what sense? What makes someone great? And that's absolutely, that's one of the best things any person can do when having a debate or an argument against an apologist.
Right, and if you find out what those qualifications are, then you can go to every religion and just look up if this God matches the criteria, right? And we can say for sure the Islamic God doesn't match the criteria, the Christian God doesn't match the criteria, even the Jewish God doesn't match the criteria, right? So. Because
the criteria of what the God being great,
because the God being great is not specified. It's not even specified. You have to look into it. This is what I mean, right? God is the greatest, because you are in love with Him. That's why you call Him the greatest. What is? No, the greatest means like He is the God of everything. Being the God of everything means also that He controls every atom, every action in this world. Does the God of the Abrahamic religion doing it? No, He does not. Because people says, oh, He gave us some free will, blah, blah, blah. In the case that you have free will, in any religion, God is not the controller of everything. So it disqualifies Him to be a God. Do you understand?
Yes, and funnily enough, yes, I do. In fact, this is one of the refutations for Anselm's argument that what do you mean great? However, if we, just for the sake of argument, even if we entertain this one, for example, let's say I'm a Muslim, and I say, well, according to me, God is the greatest. Would you agree? I'm not asking if you're going to agree with me on God being the greatest, but would you agree that this is what my belief is?
Yeah, I will tell you. Yeah,
and I think
I will not question that, because every theist who is thinking of his religion, thinking his God is the greatest, doesn't make him better than the other one.
It doesn't. It doesn't even make him exist. It's just my belief, and you agree with my belief. That I believe that God is the greatest. Now, here's the second part of it. Now I'll ask you this question. So, for example, if you have what would be better? An amazing, a beautiful thing which only exists, like a great thing which only exists in your imagination, or a thing which the same thing if it exists in real as well. What would be better?
Oh, okay. Now you're asking me a question like an apologetic. I know you are not.
It is a
yeah.
Well, I'm an atheist.
But this is I know. But you're asking me kind of.
Can you repeat the question, Ryan?
No,
Sorry.
he asking me questions to put me in a specific direction, because what will be better, assumption 1 and assumption 2, and we know already the answer to his question, right? Because of course we would like to have a God who will stick to a reality, right? Blah blah, right?
Yes.
But in the first place, we have no proof of a God, which is a God according to definition of a God, right? So
well, it doesn't matter because this is what I let's just assume that I'm an apologist. So it shouldn't matter what anyone else thinks. And me just saying that this is my personal belief, and I believe that God is the greatest. It should also sets the argument just as well, because we don't need anyone else's consensus. Now, as for proof, it's not a like evidential proof, but it is kind of like a logical argument, a rational proof, for lack of a better term. So, and you know exactly what your answer is. You agreed with me on the first premise that I believe that the ontology of God is that He's the greatest. The second thing is, obviously, a thing which only exists in your imagination is not going to be as great as the same thing actually existing in real as well. And I know these questions, these are tricky, and it's one of the things where like
it's a little bit different, Ryan. The first part I'm agreeing with, but now we are coming to the
second part.
What it means the greatest, right? And this is very different to everybody according to their knowledge. Or according
well, let me ask you the same question. Let me rephrase it. Imagine a perfect woman, or the greatest. What would be the great if it's only in your head, or if she exists in real as well? Which one is better? Which one is, yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I think.
But I don't think. I can answer the question. Of course, it's because if she would exist, right? We know already. Yeah, we know already before you before I even answered, everybody would agree to this answer, right? But the thing is, what you mean by the perfect woman? Because the perfect woman
could be anything. She has a specific.
It's in my head. It's depending
body,
on me. It's depending on me, right?
Yes,
the answer
depending
is
on
depending on me. It's depending on how I grew up, which environment, whatever, or my history, or whatever.
It is subjective. It's called subjective. So regardless of this being subjective, everybody would actually answer with me that something which exists in real is better than something which only exists in your mind, regardless of both the premises being subjective.
I agree.
I'm kind of the weird exception. I'd rather keep it in my head. I don't know why. I'd rather keep the God or the woman in my head.
It's in your head.
Yeah, I'd rather keep them in my head because I know. I feel like, if it comes to reality, it's gonna fuck me over. It's gonna fuck.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
I definitely know. Whatever I've imagined, I definitely know it's gonna fuck shit up. So. Yeah, or it's impossible, right? There are impossible
but you need to demonstrate your claim. Like you just made a claim. Oh, again, I'm just playing the devil's advocate. Not even that, but I'm just pretending to be how apologists do this. So how do you know that? Whenever you say the word "no," I know this for a fact. Then the burden of proof always lies on you, because then it becomes an active claim.
Yeah.
And then you need to prove it, and you can't just get away with, "Well, I just know." No, you need to prove it. You need to demonstrate it. So these are the things.
I'll rephrase it. What I'll say is, I think I would prefer it in the imagination. I'd prefer the imagination over the real.
All right. But me as an apologetic,
but why?
I would prefer the other thing.
Me too, in fact. But Moose, why would you prefer? Is it because you don't want to go into specific, or
maybe I think because with the perfection, right? It's the perfection aspect of it. It gets a bit, the definition gets very subjective, right? And even from my perspective, it's.
So let's say because I'm an atheist, Ryan is an atheist, and Moose is an atheist. So we defined, or we have an understanding of God because in fact we don't understand what God is. We just get the definition from other people, right? And if you say I will not talk about this. My point will be exactly opposite, right? I have an understanding. I have the definition from the people who are believing in it. And then let's examine your God according to this definition. And if your God doesn't match the definition, he is not a God, right? And it's pretty easy.
According to my definitions, or according to other people's definitions on me?
So if you let me give you an example. So
all right,
the Muslim says the God is the creator of everything, right? So I'll examine this particular sentence, right? He's the creator of everything. So is he the creator of bad things? And suddenly the Muslim will say, no, there was a guy who was fighting against him, and he was like doing stuff against him. In fact, he was not doing stuff against him. He just didn't stand up, or he didn't bow down at a certain point. And then as an excuse, he got an army from his God, and he got his allowance to fool people, right? But it doesn't mean that he is the creator of everything. It means just some exceptions, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Obviously, it happens. But however, what you're doing here is there are two errors in your rebuttal. The first one is like you're making an assumption which I never even stated. I'm not talking about a Muslim Islamic God or a theistic God. So there's I see kind of like an issue. However, it can be used using like rephrasing it can be used as a very good rebuttal. The second issue is we're not talking about the other properties of God. We're only talking about one specific property, which is greatness. And it is according to me. And let's just substitute the word God with an island, for example.
He is great.
Let's say there's an island. Let's say there's an island, which is no greater island can be perceived against this specific island. And we all know that the island would only be the greatest. The benchmarks, it's subjective. It's for me.
This is exactly what I'm telling you. So if you say he's the greatest, right?
Yes.
It has no meaning because
it doesn't have to be. It doesn't, because it's the ontology. So ontology is like defining definitions, like the nature of being. What's the nature? What's what it's like? And yes, you're absolutely right. This is a fallacy in this argument. This is a very good refutation for Anselm's argument. That all right, how do you define it? How do you define great or greatest, which is actually true? There's the second problem, which I was about to come to, is that the problem with the argument, one, you just highlighted yourself. Second one is that God, like, first, when you define, if you are into the ontology of God, you cannot falsely equivocate ontology of God into existence of God. So this is the wordplay which is going on in this argument, and which is a fallacy.
They're talking about, so it's like...
one more thing. We got another guest.
Yes, Zain Sami, welcome aboard, our previous guest.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you, Rian. I've actually been looking forward to this one, and it's been a good show. And you too, Pio. I have a score to settle with you the angry Jew from 2 weeks ago. I haven't forgotten you. You need to meet me somewhere.
Oh boy.
So
Yeah, but
anyway,
it's not the topic. Let's go with the topic of the show.
yeah, something earlier you were discussing. I just want to say something about that. You were saying that the reason that these days Muslims only want to talk about God, but not Islam directly anymore.
Yeah.
That is because they now realize in more recent times that Islamic morality cannot be defended. It's indefensible. And not only the morality, but also contradictions and everything. Like we have the free will problem, but we have free will, but we don't have free will. So that's, it makes no sense. And God is merciful, but he burns people. And God loves us, but he wants us to fear him. And all of these things, they now refuse to discuss in more recent times. There's a reason for that, because they realize that these things are indeed contradictory. And the only way that you can keep believing in them is by not thinking about them. So you have to excuse all of these things away by saying that God knows best. That's the only thing you have left. In other words, it makes no sense to the human mind. That is why you need to say God knows best. That's the only way that you can rationalize it to yourself. So all of these contradictions and all of these problems in morality, like concubines and marrying children and stoning to death and throwing people off buildings and all of these things, they realize, because in this day and age, our Muslim friends, they're clever enough to realize that these things are morally indefensible. This is why they've now come up with this new strategy that we will no longer talk about anything else. The only thing we're going to talk about is the existence of God. Nothing else matters. The only thing that matters is if God is there, if there is a God or not. Because that is the only point where they have some kind of ground left. In every other area, they can no longer defend their faith. That is why they want to talk about one specific thing. And once you accept that there is a God, then they will kind of force the other things into your mind by saying, well, if he's there, then you must accept what he's telling you to accept. So if he wants you to believe this,
you
even though it makes no sense
have an
to you.
amazing point. It doesn't. And here's the thing: like, I personally have a running definition of God, and this is how I would define it: like a very basic and a very generalized definition in an argument. God is maximally. He's not omniscient, but maximally knowledgeable and maximally powerful. And he's the conscious creator of this universe. So this is the working definition. Do you agree with the definition? Like,
I'm not sure with that. That's I would rather look at the full picture and see whether it makes sense to me or not.
I do not.
But
agree
if I
with
can
your
just.
definition.
All right.
Okay.
So what issues do you guys have
No.
with this
Go
definition?
Ahead, go ahead. No. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry.
No.
Okay,
I was
I can
asking, like, so you guys don't agree with it, and you guys have disagreement with the definition or with the way I have defined God. What disagreements do you have?
I haven't really thought it through, so I'm not going to say anything.
So the thing is, like you said it, right? So it's not only. So I talk to other like Christian apologists, right? And they'll give you the same definition of a God as the Muslims said. I know I'm going because it's about Islam here, but this is the same direction. So the Christians are also defining God as the most powerful or the most honoring or the most whatever, right?
Well,
but
I would disagree because they don't define God like this. They use the word omni. Omni means all, and I'm using the word maximally. So there's a huge difference.
I would have a question that I just want to ask her. Then can't we just split the definition into two categories, saying monotheistic and polytheistic? Because the definition essentially is broken down into two. When a monotheistic it's a supreme being, has control over everything. Whereas polytheistic, it's just a deity that has control over a certain section of nature, like the moon god or the water god and such.
Yeah,
Just
you're absolutely right. And just for this argument, like I'm using the definition of a theistic god per se, like a monotheistic god, like the great thing. Yeah. So here's the thing. Like when you're defining something, if someone says like God is this, God is that, obviously I'm gonna go like, yeah, prove it. But when I'm saying that the ontology of God is this, or this is how a God is defined, or this is how I define it, well, you can give definitions to anything in ontology. So it's so you cannot disagree with someone saying that, well, I think ketchup is the best. How are you going to disagree with that? It's a belief statement, or it's a kind of like defining what ketchup is. If they're going to say ketchup is the best, that's you can ask them. The onus is on them to prove it and first define what the term best means. What do they mean by when they use the term best? But when they say, in my opinion, or for me, I think, or something like that, in those words, that I think for me, ketchup is the best flavor there is, then you cannot argue against, like, what are you going to argue against? Like, prove that you believe that? Prove that it's actually your belief? Well, you cannot do it.
Yeah, no, it's because it just becomes an opinion at the becomes an opinion. So
opinion and a definition.
But I don't think it's important to actually define God in this way or that way. Why do you think that it's important to know the exact definition of God? Why do you think that?
Not exact. It shouldn't be exact, but like it should be a working definition to get in terms of. For example, what if I say, well, I define God as something else. I don't define God, and then later in the argument, I'm like, well, my definition is something different. Just to evade or dodge the argument or the questions. That's why we need to have our definitions straight.
Yeah. You just.
But what if we define it one way?
No. Please let me talk. Please let me talk. So, in fact, Ryan, you contradict yourself, right?
How?
Because on one side, you said, "Oh, I don't need to know," and then you said, "There is a specific way."
Wait, when did I say I don't need to know?
Like it's according to your.
That is what you believe as an atheist. You don't need to know unless you have evidence of it.
No,
I do not.
Isn't it?
I don't need to know what.
So
and when did I say it?
Okay. So let me redefine my statement. So the thing is, it's a crucial thing to have a definition of a God. Doesn't matter of what Ryan said or Zion said. It's a very crucial thing to know the definition of a God, right? And if we will agree to a definition, and as an atheist, because we also atheists have a definition of a God, and the theists have a definition of a God, and then we can talk about the definition, and then we can see if each God of each religion meets the criteria. This will be fun.
Then I have a question on this as well. What would the difference between the term deity and God be? Would they be synonymous, or is there a difference?
It could depend on the definitions. Now, here's the thing. I never said that there has to be a definition for sure. It's just that in a discussion, it's good to have these definitions beforehand, a workable definition and or workable properties you can give to God. And I'm not saying, for example, if I say God has, let's say, 99 or 100 properties, and you can go in that, okay, out of these, I'm just stating these 2 properties, and we can work our way through. Just to get the argument going.
Yeah, but let's say...
I don't see where I made the contradiction.
But let's say just a Muslim will say, Muhammad was the last messenger, right?
Okay.
This is the definition of a God. right? Let's say that. But we know they are in earlier time, not in earlier, in past time, after Muhammad, there were other messengers.
Okay.
So he wasn't the last messenger. There were other, according to other religions, right? According to other religions, not according to Islam.
Okay.
But according
so
to
are
other,
you talking to a Muslim, or are you talking to the person of that other religion?
I'm still trying to find out what's the
No.
definition of a god.
Yes.
I
It
think it's
depends
too
on the
subjective,
person
I'm
who
sorry.
defines it.
It's
Yeah, it is
not important
subjective.
to me.
For example, if you're talking to a Muslim, you kind of have to go according to their definition and then work your way through and then ask questions, and at the end go like, well, how do you know that? And can you please demonstrate that to be a fact? But at the point where they say it's ontology of God, I'm not saying that it exists or not. I'm just saying this is how I define it, and let's work our way through. I don't see any problem with that.
Yeah, just from a moderation point of view as well. I think Zain was going to say something too. Zain, if you just want to say something.
Zain, you
Sorry,
there?
were you talking to me?
Yeah, Zulkarnain. Yeah, Zulkarnain. Your name shows Z,
Yeah,
right? So
that's me. Yes, I got lost for a second with something else. Where were we?
Oh,
yeah, so you were about to say something briefly right ago before Ryan said something, but out of moderation perspective, I just want to make sure you could say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to say that it's just, for me, this is unnecessary because the definition of a god is just completely subjective, and it's a bit too subjective. Like
so how are we going to have
pinpoint-
arguments and discussions?
So no.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
You don't want to. Well, it doesn't matter if you don't want to have arguments or discussions. Then it's up to you.
Have
but the thing
multiple
with,
definitions and
because
use them all. That's the only way you can get across this problem, I guess.
No, you have to agree on a few things. You have to give liberties. For example, if they want to define God as, okay, well, someone comes, let's say I have this. There is a thing called zeta. It's not even a word. You're gonna, okay, what is zeta? Well, I define zeta as blah blah blah. All right. So what's your point? I want to prove to you that zeta does exist in real life or in reality. So you have to work with the definition the other person who's making the claim give you in order to proceed further with the discussion. And I think it's getting a bit too long, like this one. But it's the ontology. See, this is what I was saying.
God, yeah. But God is too subjective. You just cannot have one definition. You just can't have that.
Yeah.
And I don't
of course,
know the
that's why
reason
we
for that.
ask, what do you mean by God? Or how do you define God? This is why we always have to like ask and be on a definition, workable definition.
Yeah. So here we are. We just find out that God is a subjective thing. He cannot be objective. At least we can agree with that.
You can have two definitions and they can be polar
not
opposites.
God.
And
No.
will still fit.
Wait.
Hang on,
not
guys.
God himself, but the definition of God is subjective.
Yeah.
Not necessarily
guys,
God himself.
Also, guys, Nick,
what you mean?
If
No.
Guys.
If the definition is subjective, then he himself becomes subjective.
All right, silent.
Not necessarily. I can define ketchup as like I'm sorry. Just this last thing. I can define ketchup. I can define it as per me that it sucks. But it doesn't mean that ketchup doesn't exist, does it?
But you can't say it's yellow.
How can you say? Okay, maybe I perceive it as yellow, but I was taught that the color yellow is actually red and red is yellow.
Yeah, on this note,
it still would be red though. That's just because
red is something you perceive.
But
maybe I perceive.
No, it's not.
If you come into my shoes and you see ketchup, everything would be of different colors, and I perceive ketchup as you're yellow, but I call it red because that's how I was born.
But that means there's something wrong with the way that you perceive colors.
Yeah.
Maybe something's wrong the way you perceive colors. Who's to say who's wrong and right?
The conclusion.
There is a way to get across that problem.
Stop.
Okay,
wait, hang on.
I fully disagree with you. Ray.
Actually, Zen, I want you to reiterate. Like, How would you solve this issue? My perception and your perception, are we perceiving the same thing? Or no, I cannot, I never, how do you solve this problem?
Are we perceiving the same thing?
Are we perceiving the same
I think
colors?
God.
Are
So
we?
you
That was
guys
the question.
Same colors.
I don't know.
I think there's a way of knowing. I am 99.9% sure that what you see as red, I also see as red. I'm 99% sure.
Please demonstrate your workings, how you got to this 99%.
Because just the way that everything is.
No,
for you or for everybody else?
Common definitions. That's the point.
No,
we are
that's
back
not
to
No, you're just saying that it's red. Hang on. You're saying it's red, and you also perceive red exactly as I perceive. You saying that, and your justification.
I just think this is
hang on.
I just think this is
No.
hyper-skepticism.
And why is it wrong?
It's hyper-skepticism.
Because
you're being too skeptical.
because you told me that you can actually demonstrate that we both perceive the same thing, and you said that your justification was, well, it is the way it is. Well, no, it is the way how things are, how your perception.
No,
you never know how I perceive
can't demonstrate that. I can't demonstrate that, but I can be sure enough for myself to not have any doubt about it. I can't demonstrate. If you want evidence, I can't.
Well, I think yes. So you do not have any evidence. This is exactly what theists say. Well, I don't have any evidence. I cannot demonstrate to you, but I'm 100% sure God exists. You're doing the same thing. Can you see that?
No, I think there's a difference. The scale is not exactly the same.
Please demonstrate.
Because
so you're making you just made a claim.
No, is
hang
not
on.
hyper-skepticism.
You made a claim. You made a claim that we perceive exactly the same colors. That's an active claim right there.
Yeah.
When I asked you to demonstrate it, because the onus is on you to prove it, and you also said that you cannot prove it.
Okay. I got it. I think I can answer you now.
No,
I think I can do this.
I
think, guys,
I have interrupted because there will be no problem for Zion to demonstrate why he's seeing the same colors, because Zion and Ryan have, in fact, the same definition of the colors. That's
but we're talking about perception. Nope, we're talking about perception.
No, Pio, he's being hyper-skeptical about the colors.
Yeah,
when it comes to God, I don't need to be hyper-skeptical. It's just true that there's no evidence for him. I don't need to be hyper-skeptical to understand that. I just need to
is lack of evidence, is absence of evidence, does absence of evidence entail evidence for absence?
Yeah, therefore...
no, it does not.
No, I'm asking it's a question. It doesn't, right?
No, right.
No, look, Rian, listen. This is important. I got an important point. If there are two different claims, one is a lot more likelier than the other, then you can't put them on the same level. God is way less likely than me and you perceiving colors differently. Does that make sense? You have to look at the likelihood as well.
Of course.
Yeah, you're correct.
You have to be really skeptical of reality.
Can you make the claim that God does not exist? Hang on. Can you make this claim that God does not exist?
I can make this claim.
Based on chance, I think it's 50-50.
There is no chance. There is no chance. God doesn't exist because God doesn't exist. That's
so according to Pio, Rian, according to Pio, the chances are really low, and according to me, the chances are quite low as well.
I want to see your.
When it comes to colors, the chances are different. If they're not 50-50, the chances are extremely low. They're astronomical that you see red differently than I see red. So how are you holding those two things on the same level?
How do you come to that conclusion? Where's your calculation?
Wait, Ryan. What you're
he's just being skeptical.
Here,
I'm sorry.
No. I think what you're applying here.
Well, who are not skeptical? Theists are not skeptical.
No.
And if I am being skeptical, it's because I'm an atheist.
Wait. So what I'm saying is what Ryan was demonstrating, or I feel like you were demonstrating, is the argument out of ignorance, like the absence of evidence. We can't rule that out. Isn't that argument out of ignorance? Like
No.
trying to put the onus. You're trying to isn't it trying to put the onus of the that you initially had on the other partner? Like, isn't that a mechanism, or aren't you using certain mechanisms to put the onus on the other person?
I wouldn't even need to. If, for example, if I'm an apologist, I wouldn't even need to if the other person makes an active claim.
So how would like an
The
active
thing
claim?
is-
So yeah, you were saying, Zain?
I was saying that, look, what Rian is saying is true. There is some truth to it because, look, there is a possibility that we see the colors differently. Yeah. My red isn't his red. There is a possibility, even though it's really
No,
small. the
I never said
possibility is
that.
there.
I never said that. I never said that.
Ryan,
No,
let him
your
finish.
skepticism is based on that possibility.
I'm not
Your
even skeptic
skepticism is
about it.
based on that.
I'm not even
Then
skeptic
why,
about it.
why
There
are
you
we
go.
having this discussion then? Then why are we having
Because
this
you didn't
discussion?
understand my point. I'm not saying that it cannot be proven or what the chances are. I'm just saying, in my opinion, there's no way to prove otherwise. Like, there's no way to prove that
Anything.
our perceptions are same or different. It doesn't mean that I believe it. It doesn't mean that I believe there are possibilities of that happening. It does not.
Yeah. So you do understand. You do
Okay.
understand that the likelihood that you and I see colors differently
Likelihood?
is
I
very,
cannot
very
even say
different to
on
the likelihood of God.
No. In fact,
I
what
cannot
Ryan
even
is-
say comment
in
on the
fact-
likelihood
No,
as
in
well.
fact,
I
Alright,
cannot
Zain,
comment.
what Ryan is.
let's let
I
Peel
have
say.
to. I want to talk. Like I want to say something.
Okay,
about
you've
that.
got all this jumbled up. Sorry, Rian, you've got it really mixed up.
So,
Hey,
so
wait,
Ryan,
hang on,
Ryan,
Pio,
no,
Pio,
no,
hang
no.
on. Pio, I'm not making sense to you because
No,
you're
you
not trying
do.
to
You
understand where I'm
do.
coming from.
Yeah. No, I
Pio,
No,
hang
you don't
on.
make sense
but
to me
you are-
either, Rian. You don't
are
make sense to me
extremely-
either.
Hey guys, Peel's
So
you
try
are
to listen to me then.
extremely-
Pio, hang on. Pio, please.
No.
Okay.
I'm gonna mute. I'm gonna start muting certain mics because I'm gonna let certain people start speaking because people are talking over. So Pio, please continue.
So Ryan is extremely skeptical right now. So he's questioning everything. And in fact, what I'm saying, the difference, what we are what we are seeing the same colors of not or whatever, right? Because we have the same definitions. That's what I'm saying. But he's extremely skeptical. He's applying the skepticism to the colors, but not at the same level as to a God. But in fact, we have definitions of the colors. And we can prove it. We have experiments about that. And at least what we can say, how we see the colors in the same way. Right? So we can prove that, but we cannot prove the other thing, how we see God. I'm finished.
Yeah. Okay. So no, that's understandable. That's because what you're saying is that colors can be demonstrated.
Yeah, and then Pio, now that you made a statement, Rian, you can unmute yourself and just make a
I'm already
statement.
unmuted, yeah.
Yeah.
So first of all, let me ask you this. Are we talking about definitions or are we talking about perception?
Well, why are you going there? Why just...
You don't want to go there?
No. Why you need this question, right? We already told you that...
Because I'm trying to say that there are some things which we cannot make an active claim against, which are not falsifiable.
Oh, we can. This is what I told you. We can define which colors we are looking at because blah, blah, blah.
Again, my question is, am I talking about definition or am I talking about perception?
Perception. Okay, so now because my English is bad, you have to really define for me what is the difference.
Definition is something which you give
No,
words
no,
to
no.
do in order to.
The definition between perception and definition.
So definition are words how you actually make attributes to a certain things. Perception is how you perceive things to be, how your brain
Okay, how you
decodes
think.
the real world.
Okay, but so you give a place where we can have the same definition, and according to definition, then we can, according to definition, see what our perceptions are. And again, then I'm coming back to the colors. We have a definition of what a color is, then we can have an ontological knowledge, what we are talking about, blah, blah. I hate this fucking philosophy, right? But this is the thing. So
Yeah. Just PO to help you, I'll give you the actual definitions of both a definition and perception here, and also for the audience. So for definition, it's the degree of distinctness in outline of an object, image, and or sound, especially of an image in a photograph or of a screen. And then for perception, it's the ability to see, hear, or become aware of something through the senses.
So the first one, what I mean by that, the first one will be the thing what we all agree on, and the second thing will be like the experience. Or am I wrong about that?
Yes. I think you're pretty accurate.
Yeah, it's an experience based off of what your senses can pick up.
So I'm going with the first thing, like everybody agrees to the definition of it, right? And based on that, we have a discussion.
Yeah, the definitions are the same. Yep, definitions are the same, but I cannot make the same claim about perceiving. Perception being exactly the same, yours and mine. But if you can, I think it's something which is unfalsifiable. I can see red. I can call it red. You can call something red, but if, for example, our minds are swapped, if I come and see the same thing from your perception, and I'll discover, oh, what I see red is within your perception, it's something else. It's yellow. Our perceptions could differ. And there's, according to me at least, there's probably no way to tell if we perceive colors the same way as well. And again, this is why I'm saying I'm not talking about definitions, I'm talking about perception.
So it's only like, so what you're saying is that it's just, you're just sort of talking about different perspectives, that is, or perceptions.
Yes.
All right.
It could be perceived like same thing, same apple, we can perceive differently. With the color of the apple, we can perceive different.
Yeah. And
Am I still muted?
No,
you're
not. You're not.
How about this, Zain?
Okay.
Since we have 10 more minutes, Zain, you can say your piece.
Yeah, look, Rian, I finally see where you're coming from. Perception, I mean, really, we can't actually demonstrate because it's only perception. There's no actual way of demonstrating it. So you've differentiated something that is only in someone's mind. Therefore, it cannot be brought out in the open. So therefore, it's different. I mean, it's not exactly like, how all of the other stuff works, which is external. So I do see where you're coming from, but still, I stand by my point. In spite of that, I stand by my point. The likelihood that you see red differently to I do is so much different to the likelihood of God. Therefore, they are not exactly the same, and we can't hold them to the same standard. I still stand by that. Yes, I cannot prove it because maybe if the minds were swapped, it would turn out that you see red differently than I do. But I still think the likelihood is a lot lower that is the case. it's highly unlikely that you see red differently to what I see red. It's very unlikely. No, I cannot prove that. Of course I cannot, but the likelihood is very low. On the other hand, when it comes to a God, I can say with more confidence that there is no God. With a lot more confidence, because there's so many more reasons, genuine reasons, to not believe in a God. Wouldn't you agree?
Ryan, your response?
Oh yeah. So the only point is, what I'm trying to demonstrate. First of all, you made quite a few bold assertions without demonstrating them. But that's not the issue. The thing is, like, yes, I agree with you that those different things, different claims have different degrees. They are not on the same level. You don't even have to like stand by it, because I was never refuting that to begin with. My only contention, the problem is, first of all, you made two claims over here, and I was talking about falsifiability. Falsifiability and something which is unfalsifiable, it means it cannot be proven false. It cannot. And the perception thing and the God thing, they both are unfalsifiable claims. You cannot disprove either one. Do you agree with
true.
me?
You can never ever disprove anything. You can't be sure about anything, because the human conscience is not
Then we're
capable
on the
of
same
being
page.
sure.
Now, a couple more
Oh,
things.
I'm laughing about that.
Now, a couple
No,
more
that's true,
things.
Pio. You can be 99.9% sure about something, but not 100%. You can't.
Yeah, this is because of the
No,
scientific
but 99.
method,
Oh
right?
yes, I should be coming. I think you get a fair chance to speak. So maybe just let me complete what I was trying to say. As for the 99%, number one, you need to show your mathematical working, how you got to that percentage.
No, I don't have a
But
mathematical working. It's just logic.
then you should be able to demonstrate using logic.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
sure I could. I mean, if you gave me some time, I'm sure I could.
No, you don't
All
need
right.
to have time. There's like 0% of evidence of a God, like zero for everything we had like discovered until now, right? The weather, how the world was formed, whatever. There is zero God in it. There is even like 48 48 years theory how the world come into existence, and it already existed.
Well, I haven't heard of that one.
Like Stephen Hawking made a like 40 years ago a hypothesis how the world came without a God, right? And it's still not disproven. It was only disproven by himself because there was someone else, other points which were dismissed in it, right? But there's a 48 theory, and what I mean by theory, like a scientific proved, blah blah blah, not theory like colloquial meaning, right? How the world came to existence. It didn't need a God, right? So,
all right.
So yeah, so here we are.
So yes, I can actually I try to think a lot before making any claim, but yeah, I kind of agree with you. I would say it's a very reasonable argument you put there. My problem is not there. The problem is when, based on zero evidence, if you make a bold assertion that this is why God does not exist, it is a fallacy.
Because you don't need a God to create a world. That's the point. That's the whole point.
All right, I agree with the point, but would you
finally,
go out of your way
to
to make this bold assertion? No,
It's
and
not,
here's the
Yes,
thing. Like
I
there
think.
were a couple of other things
No.
as well, Zan. Like wait, when you said that I'm maximally or extra skeptical. Look, if I was saying that there's like, I believe that we have the different perception and how you're going to tell. That is another thing. I never said that. I'm just saying I was only trying to come to the point of something being unfalsifiable and what the term unfalsifiable means. There's no way to falsify something that becomes unfalsifiable. And if I'm trying to like demonstrate to you with an example
Yes,
of the
those are
perception
two
and
different
colors,
things.
hang on. It
Rian.
doesn't, let me finish. It doesn't make me an extra skeptic kind of a person.
All right, now your
Yeah,
response,
okay.
Zane?
But those are two opposite things, because on the one extreme, you can say that, well, it's unfalsifiable, but it's on the whole other extreme, what Pio just said, that God is nowhere to be found in anything that ever happened. Those are two completely different extremes. On the one extreme, you're trying to look for him. On the other extreme, you're saying, well, we can never falsify him.
Yes.
So you have to stick to one.
And we cannot falsify.
Even though
we cannot falsify
both
God.
things are true, but we should, when we're discussing what God is, or whether he's real or not, we should stick with one at a time.
The best thing to stick to is, for example, if you're having an argument with a theist, let them make bold assertions and ask them questions. Can you demonstrate that? Can you prove that? How do you know that? Instead of you making a claim yourself that God doesn't exist, then the onus would be on you to disprove God or falsify something which is unfalsifiable by the mere ontology of it.
All right, guys. At this point, we're approaching the 2-hour mark, so I think we'll just go around and give everyone like a brief moment to make a closing statement, and we'll actually switch to Discord to discuss.
All right, thank you so much, Nick. So before we close off, Pio, do you have any closing statements?
No, it was very interesting, and we can go for hours about this stuff, but I will just wait for you at Discord.
He's waiting with a knife.
Yeah.
The Jew waiting for a knife. All right. Now, Sammy Zane. Any last words?
It was a good debate. It was an interesting discussion. It was a little bit stressful as well, but I guess towards the end we finally started to come on the same page and make sense of it. There are still some things that I disagree with what Rian said, but that's just what we do. I mean, we're not Muslims, and we don't have beliefs that we stick to, and we're not afraid of hell. We're not afraid of each other, certainly. Yeah, of course we're all afraid of Pio, though. We can disagree with each other and be okay with it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. But we can all disagree with each other except Pio, and we can be okay with it. So it was a fun discussion.
All right, Ryan, any last words?
I would just totally agree with all you guys, man. It was pretty fruitful, and just goes on to say like how tricky philosophy can be times, and it's I think that should do it.
Yeah, it's just the world we live in is just so complicated. That's the way it is.
No, you said the right thing. Philosophy is bullshit.
Forget philosophy, reality.
All right.
Yeah.
Nick.
Well,
so
you can make an argument like philosophy is pretty rooted, especially epistemology, which is a branch of philosophy. It's extremely necessary.
No, I'm actually missing someone today. You know who that is? Our good friend Muhammad Abdullah Qureshi. He would have been a good good person to chat with here.
That guy.
I would love to have him on the show one day. Like have
this would have
Nick
turned into a bloody wrestling match.
And also, Nick, do you have any last words, partner?
Yeah, Zane, the disagreements and such, we do have them, but we take them to Discord so we can drive traffic there. So, But yeah,
Okay,
so
let's do it. Let's do
all
it.
right, so the
Bring it on,
link is down
bitches.
there. Private chat has the invitation, and I'll put it in the regular place as well. We'll jump into Discord and discuss all this.
All right, and also,
Oh, yeah.
I'll just end the show with I
Yeah.
wanted to ask Ryan 2 more questions, but we actually got a very interesting discussion, and I'm partly bummed that I didn't get to ask these questions.
Maybe you can ask in Discord because I'm planning to like be there. Amazing, amazing show. And one more thing, I actually for the audience and everyone, I said like I'll be going in like 30 minutes or 45 minutes, but I had such an amazing time that I'm still staying for the Discord. So thank you guys for having me here, man. It's
Thank
really
you
fruitful.
for being there.
No worries. Yeah, no,
Always.
Time can go by really fast having this discussion, and you can lose track of the time. I won't be there on Discord, but because I have some commitments. But Nick will definitely be there. So Nick, make sure they all behave.
All right. And I'm a mod in Discord as well, so I'll be muting people who interrupt our guests.
All right, and PO, don't drink too much. Please don't drink too much.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us at the Jinn and Tonic show, and most of us will see you in Discord. Have a lovely day.